Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Explain This. I'm with Andy Rogers. What's going on, man?
Brother B.
Brother A.
Brother Bear.
I'm trying to think of like a nickname for you and me.
You're
You're Brother A, I'm Brother B.
Brother A and Brother B?
Yeah.
AB.
AB.
Abba. You are the dancing queen, young and sweet. Oh, I'm not going to. Can we start over? I'm just kidding. We're here.
We're here.
We're here.
We're going to keep the recording going,
We're going to
guys.
keep it.
We're going to explain a really, really interesting topic that is, he mentioned this to me right before we started recording. It's a tad bit controversial. I'm sure you guys can already tell by the title of the show. It's Parasite cleanses, and you've already suggested I get one, and I don't even know what it is.
Ben, I'm just going to tell you right now, you got worms. Okay. I don't have to know much, but Ben, you got worms. I've seen the state of this room. I've been living with you for a couple months now. Ben's got worms.
Yeah,
okay.
That for some reason that doesn't worry me as much as it should, but it should worry me.
No, we don't live in worry. No. We don't speak into worry or fear or anxiety. No. So I wouldn't be worried about this, but to be aware of it, yes. So what I wanted to explain in this episode is what's the deal about parasite cleanses? A lot of times what happens is when we, especially in the social media world, the digital age, things come out very quickly and then they're not really founded or backed by long-term research. So there's a lot of things on TikTok right now, on Instagram that are everyone needs to detox. Yep. Everyone needs a parasite cleanse.
Yep.
And then traditional medical communities pushing against that. That's not really something we do, especially in America. I've never really heard of a parasite cleanse, especially in and what we do and what we learn in school is that, yes, you can test for parasites, and then you can target that specific one. But then what do you do from there? You just clear it out, and that it's assumed that it's done. The idea behind parasite cleanses and so that's the controversy. The controversy
is what you do once you're done with the parasite cleanse?
Or do you really need one?
Okay.
It's do you really need one? Because a lot of the parasite cleanses that we do right now, there's not testing that goes before. Even we have an episode with Margot who's going to be kind of heading up our parasite cleanses. Cellcore doesn't really say you need a test before to say you have worms. They're targeting all the parasites that could be in there, killing them, binding them, getting them out.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So what the traditional medical community says is that's not substantiated. We need to test and make sure that actual parasite is in there, and then you treat that specific one with a standard medicine.
And what you're talking about is we're going to wipe out all the parasites.
You're going to wipe them all out.
Okay.
So that's the controversy.
Okay.
And this isn't explain this, so I'm not giving you personal medical advice right now. This is just something from my experience. This is something that through reading and researching what the deal is or what the idea behind a parasite cleanse, it makes sense to me.
Okay.
So that's what I'm going to explain today. What about a parasite cleanse makes sense, and what does it actually entail?
Okay.
And two, if you're going to do one, do it through a provider. Do it through a provider and do it through a company that is reputable.
No.
A lot of people just kind of look on the internet, buy something off of Amazon and cleanse. And I would say, don't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, is there a difference between a cleanse and a detox? Is that the same thing?
So that's a good thing. Detox means detoxifying, getting the toxins out. So
Okay.
D, out, toxin, out. So toxins can be a lot of different things. That can be plastics, heavy metals, plastics, phthalates.
Okay.
That's typically parabens. It's like you get all this stuff that shouldn't be out there. It's basically getting out what shouldn't be in. Parasite cleanse. A parasite, if you've ever seen the movie Parasite, a parasite is living and feeding off of a host.
So it's living on something inside.
So it's going in you.
Yeah.
And it's living in there, and it is living it up. It is living large because it's not paying you rent and it's only taking from you. So that's what a parasite is. The movie Parasite is about a parasite. That's typically what it is. When we think of worms, we typically think of worms as parasites. If you've ever seen the movie Dune, the worm, it's living off everything. We're not supporting. They kind of create a symbiotic relationship between it. But worms usually parasites. So I looked up the history of parasites. So parasites living off of a host. Remember, that's a big thing to remember. What is a parasite? It lives off of you and hurts you. It's harmful. There's symbiotic, dysbiotic relationships, and then there's parasitic relationships.
Okay.
So that is toxic. You think of a friend who's toxic or a relationship that's toxic, they're usually harming you.
Yep.
So that's what a parasite is. So if you look at it, and this is through a couple different resources, so if somebody has a different idea about it, and they might find something different. 700 known worms that can infect humans, and 300 species of worms. 300 species of worms that can affect humans, and 70 protozoa, which is one-celled organisms. If you look this stuff up, Giardia, amoebas, toxoplasmosis, hookworms, tapeworms, eyeworms, you've heard of these things. So these things actually exist, and the traditional medical community would agree with that.
Correct.
So there's
with those, it's very obvious. So like with a tapeworm, you can't gain weight.
exactly there's or you live in a house with a cat and you came in touch with the cat feces, toxoplasmosis, and you'll have symptoms from it.
Dang. Okay.
So Ben doesn't have cats. It's fine. It's fine. There's no cats in the house.
No cats.
But those are very specific. But too, there's a lot more smaller ones, larger ones. So they're saying that it's up to 300 species of worms, not just number, but species, and 70 protozoa that can live in the human body. So they also break it down even further from there, which is cool, that some of these are ancestral or heirloom, meaning that those you inherit. Because we all, if you're looking at this from an evolutionary standpoint, we all kind of came from the same place and then migrated out, over a bajillion years, a lot of years. That's kind of an evolutionary standpoint, that we started in one place, kind of in an African continent, and then moved off from there.
Okay.
Heirloom or ancestral parasites or worms. Then there's souvenirs. Or they call them souvenirs, or what's the other word for accidental? You pick them up. So ones you inherit and then ones you pick up. So what do you do when you travel to Africa? I've traveled to Africa before. You gotta work on dewormer. You gotta treat yourself for malaria, for things that can come in, infect you, and then grow in your body.
Okay.
So different places have different types of parasitic infections. So those are the ones that you pick up. Another thing to consider too, I have dogs. Dogs sleep in my bed. My dog, Todd.
Shout out to Todd.
Shout out to T. I love Todd. I treat him with Trifexis every month. What is Trifexis? It is a dewormer. It is a dewormer, and it also works on fleas too. But literally, I looked up Trifexis, and hookworms, roundworms, whipworms, and heartworms in addition to fleas. And I treat them every month. And where do those worms go?
To you.
Hopefully not. We're not going to speak that into existence. But two, they're excreted through the body. He poops them out. So our excretion, the way that was we're going to talk about a specific cleansing techniques of why people tend to get they need to say that their body needs to be functioning correctly in order to detox. Your bowel movements, so that's usually the form of excretion. Urination, another form of excretion. Breathing, the exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide, that has to be flowing well. And also your skin. You need to be able to sweat because that's a way to detox. What do you do when you go into a hot yoga studio? Oh, this is detoxing. I'm in infrared heat. I'm sweating. You're getting rid of toxins that way. Yep. So two, Todd's pooping them out. And what am I doing?
Pooping them out.
With Todd, I'm picking it up.
Oh, got it.
But how many people you walk into the park? We're looking at a park right now. People are picking up poop. We're putting it in a bag and putting it near our hands. So this theory that we don't need to do anything about worms, I don't really put stock into, because I'm around worms all the time, and then we do it for animals and we don't do it for ourselves. I couldn't find a lot of substantiated sources to say the exact countries or continents that continually do deworming, but I know that the Asian cultures and in African cultures, I think it's a little bit more prevalent there, maybe even South America. But the idea of every month, it's because with the full moon, which happens 12 times a year, that the parasites grow. So it's almost like our body, our circadian rhythm changes. Have you ever heard people going crazy around the moon?
Oh yeah.
Two, if you work in an ER, crazy things happen in the ER during a full moon. parasites can grow. That is a reproductive cycle for them. The female ovums, they just reproduce like crazy. There's a theory that they detach from the gut wall or the microbiome and start to reproduce. But that's, if I think about it, that's how many times a year I'm treating Todd for his worms.
Once a month.
Once a month, when that matches with the cycle of the moon. So that's another thing that people will do, full moon cleanses. That's something you'll read about on the internet, that they try to kill off the parasites or the worms or the protozoa and detox them out when they're growing most.
Okay.
So what is the idea behind a parasite cleanse? That's the idea behind why we would do it.
Now, parasite cleanse and deworming are the same thing?
I'm saying so a worm is a parasite.
Okay.
A worm is a parasite. A protozoa can be a parasite as well.
Okay.
So a parasite, remember, it's just something in there causing you harm. Worms are just kind of a target for it. And protozoa. And protozoa just means one-celled organism.
Okay.
So when we're thinking about this, we're thinking we've inherited some worms and we've come in contact with some worms. What do we want to do about it? They either cause symptoms or don't cause symptoms. Symptoms for this could be fever, unexplained gut dysmotility. So that's what we really think about: gut bloating, abdominal discomfort, changes in bowel movements. It can also cause skin manifestations, fatigue, brain fog. So I mean, too, if we're thinking about COVID and ivermectin, that's a dewormer. So maybe inflammation could be part of a parasitic infection. So that's what we're looking for as far as signs and symptoms, but a lot of people could be carrying worms and don't know it.
Well, it sounds like
Probably
a lot
everyone.
of us. Yeah.
Yes. Would make sense to me. Again, there's controversy about this. That makes sense to me.
Right.
Especially with 300 species of worms and 70 species of protozoa associated with humans. So here's the idea. The history behind it has been traced back into the BCs from what I found. There's one particular study from Science Direct that talks about Chinese medicine using herbals to kill off worms and get them out of the body. And so you're looking at 770 BC of written history of how they do it and what tools they used. So it's been around for a long time. In modern medicine, we just don't use it as much. So quickly, the idea behind the actual cleanse, if you end up doing it through a company like Cellcore, which we have at the office and can get to you. We have another episode on that. What they do is they use certain, first off, you have to get your systems going. So you need healthy bowel movements with adequate urination. You're breathing well and you're sweating, and you can sweat. That means skin, lungs, gut, and urinary.
You need to sweat every day?
And kidneys. Kidneys, bowels, lungs, skin are working well. That's the whole get the flow going. It's because if you detox or if you kill off these worms and you can't get rid of them, then they're going to stick in your body. You need to get them out. You need to have good excretion tools. So a lot of these companies will have a month or two where you're just working on flow. Then you start to kill off the specific worms. There's a lot of different ways to do it. They're all, from what I've read, natural ways. So I came up with a couple examples. Grapeseed, celery extract, Nigella sativa, mimosa pudica seed. I'm probably mispronouncing some of these. Papaya seed, wormwood. Those are yucca root. So those are some ways of killing off the parasite. So it's ways to say kill the actual invader. Then to bind it and get it out. You're looking.
So you need to do both.
You need to do both.
So you need to kill first, then bind to get out.
It'd be like if we got attacked and 1 million people came and we just killed all the bodies and left them there to rot. You need to get them somewhere.
Okay.
You need to get them somewhere.
Okay.
So to stuff like TUDCA, which is taurine, plus the UDCA, which is ursodeoxycholic acid. So those are kind of bile. Those work with bile to where you can almost bile and bind. So they call them chaperone agents to get things out. And fulvic acid is another one of those. Those are used in Chinese medicine quite a bit. So you're looking at detox liver as a part of the detox as well. N-acetylcysteine, taurine, TUDCA are really good for your liver as well. So we're thinking kill it naturally and then bind it, get it out, and repeat the process.
Once a month? Or?
So some people do it around the full moon every month. Some people do it a couple times a year. Some people go based on symptoms. So or contacts. You travel to a different country that has different environmental factors there. You get a dog, you have kids, kids pinworms. I meant the kids are full of worms. It's something to consider. I think it can be, there's not a great standard of care for that, but I think you can utilize this tool more often than not. And some people will do it a couple times a year just to have a cleanse. And you could just do the parasite cleanse. Once you're really functioning well and having good immune support and function and all four of those key factors with your skin, your lungs, your bowels, and your kidneys are working well, then you can really just go for a parasite cleanse.
So I thought you were just talking, so a parasite cleanse plus something else, plus all these, plus the killing part.
That is the cleanse.
That is the cleanse.
That is the cleanse. It's how we kill it and get it out. That is a cleanse.
And you poop it out.
You can poop it out. Yep. And two, yes, I've seen them.
I know. Is it painful?
What, life? Yes. Yes. Yes, it is. Life is painful. No. Not painful. It's just disconcerting. Not a lot of people look through their bowel movements. Some people do. I just happened to look on one day. It's happened on 2 occasions where I saw what looked like eggs and a dead worm.
Do you feel weird while on it, or you feel...
Some people notice that there's something called a Herx reaction. So a Herx reaction means that you have a lot of die-off and it's not getting out quickly. And two, that's something that you want to take a little bit longer to go through. So people adjust how they kill and cleanse these things off and get them out and excrete them. But some people handle it just fine. I feel way better. I love it. I put stock into parasite cleanses with a reputable company, but I understand the controversy because there's not a lot that says I have 20 worms and I did this one thing and 1,000 people in a double-blind randomized controlled trial did the same thing and killed off everything and all their symptoms went away. A lot of it too is that these are natural products, which usually don't go through studies like that. And remember, there's 300 species of worms, 70 parasites. How are you going to do a study on that? Right. So I think a lot of it is using common sense with that to say, there are worms. It's documented there are. We have documentation that they can come in, infest, and live in your gut and reproduce in your gut. So why not do them?
Why not? Like that.
See what happens.
I'm leaving this episode thinking, why not? Like, what's the harm?
For you, Ben? Win.
Yeah. It's not a why. It's a win.
It's not a why. It's a win. It's not a why. I hope that explains. Is there anything else that, like, to recap? Because this is a little. One, there's controversy because there's not a lot of research in traditional medicine that backs it up. Two, there is historical context for parasite and cleanses. Yep. Three, there's documentation of a ton of worms. There are specific testings that you can do. GI Map will look at worms. There's 2 other ones that had reputable sources for how you test and see about these worms: GI Effects and Parasitology and GI Map. So if you want to say, I need to see that worm before clearing it out, my not recommendation, because we're not giving medical advice in there. You have to get the right stool at the right time and the right sample that you send off. So there's differences on where you actually pick up that sample to send off and what you're actually going to find.
But in order to do a parasite cleanse, you don't have to have like a test saying you have.
That's according to Cellcore, no. And so that might be in controversy to what traditional medicine says. In my opinion, I have a dog and I pick up his poop and I deworm him. So that would make sense that I could easily pick up something like that. Got it. So then you look into how do you go about a parasite cleanse. You want to make sure that your body is functioning well so that you can excrete what you're killing off. And then you use natural products and binders to kill, bind, get out. And then repeat the process. Rinse and repeat.
Rinse and repeat.
Parasite you heard cleanse. It here. Rinse and repeat, ladies and gentlemen.
Man, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Parasite
Let's explain
cleanse.
This.
You explained it.
There it is.
Guys, you name it, we explain it. Thank y'all so much for hanging out with us today. As always, we'll see you guys next time. Thanks, man.
Thanks. Fist bump.
Don't go away.